Meeting. Oh,
Hello.
okay, Michaela is here.
Hi, Mike.
So hi, Mike. Michaela, thank you for coming.
There
Thank you.
We're glad to see you.
Yeah.
I know it's been a while since I've been in person. You guys
I
don't
know.
remember me.
I did not. I don't think I've ever met you in
We
person.
met.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little while ago. La Jolla traffic keeps me tied up, so.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
glad
well,
that's-
Yeah.
hasn't started
that's
quite
why,
yet.
Zoom is so much easier and less stressful. Thank you for coming. All right, so, call roll. Thank you. sis.
All right. Board Member Walker. Board Member McWilliams.
I think he's having trouble hearing us.
Oh, he's here. Board Member Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Fuentes. Board Member Duff. Board Member Dement.
Yes.
Board Member Blackman.
Here.
Chair Castanos.
Here. All right, thank you. So, let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is right behind you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
None.
Any public comments at this point in time, Stacy, for items not on the agenda?
No hands are raised at this time.
Any conflict disclosures from members of the board? Okay, hearing none, we can begin with current business. Item 6.1 on the agenda, approval of the minutes for the December 21st meeting. You have the minutes in your packet and you've had a chance to review them. 21st. Any questions, comments, additions, deletions?
I'll move to approve them.
Okay, Christian moves to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second? Okay. You will second it?
All right, Board Member McWilliams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Dement, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Blackman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair Castanos, how do you vote?
Yes,
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
thank you. Item 6.2 on the agenda, La Mesa Police Department updates with Chief Sweeney.
Thank you, Chair. It's good to see everybody. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Just a couple things. I want to start with our staffing as always, to let you know where we're at and hopefully where we'll be here shortly. But currently, we still have 5 police officer vacancies. Our recruiting staff, background staff is working diligently to try and find applicants. So we have a couple laterals that are in the process, but currently we have 5 police officer vacancies. And I'm going to talk about some that we have in staffing right now. Now, those 5 vacancies do not include the ones that I'm going to talk about. So with the personnel that we have on board right now, we also have one officer who just completed field training. That's Officer Rafael Gonzalez, and he would have been here today, but he just finished his week yesterday and got off training. So he's excited to start next week on his own. So we're excited to have him out of training. We still do have 3 police officers in field training program here in La Mesa. They're doing well, but they have some time. We have 2 that are in the academy. They're expected to graduate February 9th, I believe, or 13th, something like that, I believe. Early February, they're going to graduate from the police academy, so they'll start field training. We are currently down 1 lieutenant position with Lieutenant Chad Bell, who retired last year. That position will open up. We're working with human resources on that right now. And we're going to open up that countywide beginning February 1st. So February 1st, we'll open that position. We still have 1 dispatcher position down. So if you count everything all in total that I just talked about, we have 12 positions that we're down right now
Wow.
throughout the police station. or the police department. What we're doing this year, moving into 2023, is we're putting together a request for proposals for staffing and efficiency analysis of the police department. I think it's important. We've been at 70, well, we're 70. We got one off a grant position last year for the Proposition 64 grant. So Officer Watkins is that Prop 64 officer, but that came off of a grant. But we haven't moved away from 68, 69 in a number of years. So even though our population has increased quite a bit, our police department numbers haven't increased. So we're going to have, hopefully, once the RFPs go out, the request for proposals, we'll get some companies come back. National City did it, Oceanside did it, to where the company will come in and take a look at what you have for staffing, what your workload is, what you need, maybe different ways that you can do things to make it more efficient. So we're really looking forward to getting that going. Obviously, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. I wish it could. But we're probably looking at about 6+ months to get that complete. So likely be coming and asking some questions at the CPOB too, to get you involved in that process for our staffing and moving forward. I talked about previously, and I've been talking about this since I came on the job, is developing a community engagement team here within the police department.
Yeah.
That just takes people to do. Right now, we're truly filling holes to make sure that our patrol staffing is up to date and that there's still enough officers out there every day, which there are. We've just shifted some positions. We're in the mode right now to where as those positions start to fill with people coming out of training, we can replace positions that have been vacant for a little bit. One example is our traffic division. We had one motor officer position down, so we just filled that with Officer Jonathan Seidel. So he came out of patrol into traffic. He'll go to the academy here in March for that position, but he's working traffic right now, which is, it's one of our largest complaints is traffic issues. So that's what we're trying to focus and fill first. Secondly is our detective positions.
Oh.
We want to be able to work those cases as they come in. So we're working on that for this year. The biggest thing for us is a staffing analysis, getting that done and finding out what we need, how much more we need, or how we can shift and do things a little bit differently. We are going to get officer wellness and mental health grant this year.
Oh.
Governor Newsom approved that to the state of California for all law enforcement agencies. Our cut on that grant when it comes here is going to be just over $42,000. So right now we're looking at different ways to utilize that grant, whether it be an app-based program, resource-based program. You know, we already have a department psychologist that's assigned to us. That's a great thing. So just looking at different avenues for mental health and wellness for the officers and dispatchers and our entire staff truly moving forward. So 42,000 is not a lot, but you know, any little bit helps.
And that can't be used for personnel, probably has to be
cannot.
used for.
Has to be
resources.
used for programs or things associated with mental health and wellness.
Okay.
So our officers have a bunch of ideas. I think they want a sauna in the room.
Uh-huh.
I'm not kidding.
I know the studio.
Great ideas, right?
Great idea.
And then for 2023, like I said, we're gonna do that full staffing and hiring analysis as we move forward. If I want to get that community engagement team up. If we get the extra bodies to do that, that's gonna be priority to get that up and running. That's gonna take it's just personnel. Truly, that's all it is. We're still doing all the things that a community engagement team would do. It's just that my officers, my detectives, my professional civilian staff are wearing multiple different hats doing that. We have our crime analyst and our crime prevention specialist are both pregnant right now. So they're going to be going out on maternity leave, which is wonderful for their families. We're looking to fill those positions temporarily while they're out. We want to work this year to host a community active shooter event.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's really getting that information out to the entire community. If you should have an active shooter event, God forbid, anywhere you're at, what you should do, how you should react. We're going to work on putting that together on a video also, so that for those that don't get a chance to attend that training, that we can get that out citywide. So Captain Runge's working on that. Look forward to that one. Everything else that we've done, our Citizens Academy, our Youth Leadership Academy, we're planning on doing this year. We were really hoping to do 2 Citizens Academies this year. I just don't think we're gonna have it staffing wise. So I want to kind of be realistic, you know, we'll do as much as we can. We may squeeze in another Life on the Beat. For those of you that have heard of that, that's a 4-hour training. So, you know, what we do in the portion of the Citizens Academy, which you know is a long time, we squeeze down to 4 hours and get as much of that in as we can. It's still beneficial to the community. It's a fun event. It's anytime we can get together and just talk about the way that we do things and have questions asked as to why you do that is great. So we'll continue that. And then right now, last but not least, I told you, I think last time we're at 21% female staff. So that's the highest we've ever been in La Mesa PD. Sworn police officer staff. So 21%, that brings with it logistical issues that, you know, we're looking at into this year, such as a larger female locker room. So we've got some ideas. A good thing is we went paperless quite some time ago. So all of the record storage areas that we have, we can shift. So we're looking at how we can do that this year, where those funds are going to come from. But ultimately, you know, our goal here is to get up in the 30%, maybe even higher with female staffing with police officers. That's just kind of how the environment is changing right now. We're getting a lot of female police officers, which is great. We just have to have room for them.
Yeah.
So we'll work to make sure that they have enough room to have their showers and restrooms, and they have the gym just like ours. So the gym expansion may be another thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of things going on for 2023. That's just a few.
Bob?
I had one thing for you, Chief. You know, Janet and I had gone to that MLK breakfast on Monday, and they had the Chula Vista Police Department there. They had their own table. Don't ask me how they did that, but I was thinking, we were talking, saying, hey, it'd be nice to see our guys out there too, right? So they're the only police department that was there.
And so I can give you some inside information. Apparently that wasn't passed down to all the agencies.
Okay.
So we're trying to track that right now. I literally was on a text message group yesterday saying, why didn't we get an invite?
Yeah.
And so the invites didn't go out. That's just a logistical, we can put that on a calendar. If it's the same time every year, we can put that on the calendar and get our folks there. Chula Vista heard about it and
Yeah, they were.
grabbed the table. If we would have heard about it, we'd have done the same thing.
They got a lot of attention for
Yeah, they
being
did.
there, a lot of kudos. Everybody's
Sure they did.
happy to see that table full.
Well, that's the thing, you know, you talk about inclusiveness. We want to be involved in everything.
yeah.
And unfortunately, this one was just, you know, the information didn't get to us,
Yeah.
or else we'd have been there.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about it except through Jack Shu and, but yeah, it would have been nice to let the police department find. And then I think all the tables were sold rather quickly. I mean, it was full. Every table was full. So they're gonna have to get a bigger place next time.
Right.
Send us an email. We
Yeah.
will absolutely be there.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it next year, we know when it is, and I'll hunt down a table and go myself.
Yes. That's right.
First of all, I want to apologize for being late. I have no excuses. I can't make them up. What is the percentage of diversity in the police department right now?
Well, it's posted on our website. We keep it updated about monthly, but I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. But Greg can pull it up, but we mirror, if not better, the current makeup of our city.
And diversity female?
21%.
No, I know it's sweet female, but how many of the female are of some diversity, some type, such as Hispanic or?
Let me give you the numbers. I can't tell you the female. I can probably go through them all in my head.
Come on, you're supposed to memorize. You're a police officer. No, that's okay.
I had one other question about hiring and things, because it was brought up because people are talking about lots of developments and I probably can look this up, so I apologize.
I'll try.
Is it, I was just looking at the population growth of La Mesa, right? So it was 66 or 0.66% a year, but it jumped 2% last year. And as far as I can see the developments that are going on, I see a 5% jump in the next year and a half. Is there a correlation between how much development is being approved and how much the police force needs to grow along with that? So if we have 60,000, roughly 60,000 in La Mesa, and it's going to grow by 3,000 people with the same police force, or is there a correlation? Is there an attempt to meet that as well?
There is a correlation. That's what we're hoping that the staffing analysis will show.
Okay.
And typically it's 1 officer per 1,000. At 1.1, there's 1.4, I think, within the county, depending on how you look. Chula Vista has a higher percentage. You know, the correct number is somewhere in between. But, you know, right now with 70 sworn officers, I think we're probably about 73,000 is going to be our new census, is just a guess, and growing.
Yeah.
So nothing's stopping.
And it'd just be good to get ahead of that, being aware of what is to come rather than, oh, now we're at 73,000. Now we need to hire,
Right.
more, you know, so
Well, that's-
how we could keep that in.
Absolutely. And that's what the staffing analysis is going to look at. What historically has been our growth over the years? What do we project it to be? Where should you be as a department? And you take a look at 9 square miles with National City Police Department, and they have 90 sworn officers. They're the same square miles as us. They're the same population as us. They have a gang problem.
Yeah.
We don't,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
That's your, that's what you did. You took care of the gangs.
What's that?
I said, you took care of the gangs.
We took care of it. But, you know, there's all these things that we're gonna look at, but that's definitely one of them.
So
I know it's coming up in conversations as more development is being approved, and
Yeah.
for even just a citizen to be able to speak to that, that's helpful.
Captain Runge.
I do have those numbers.
Please.
And I apologize, we have it broken down demographically by race and by sex. We don't have specific category for diversity between the sexes. Like the chief mentioned earlier, we have 65 sworn officers at the moment with 5 vacant positions. And of those 65, we are at 64.6% Caucasian, 26.2% Hispanic, 7.7% African-American, and 1.5% Asian. And then with also, like the chief mentioned, we're at 78.5% male and 21.5% female.
What was the African American again?
7.7.
7.7, okay. Yeah, it pretty much mirrors our population demographics, so. Good. So the RFP that you're looking at for staffing, that's an outside consultant that comes in and analyzes.
Correct.
What you're doing and what the city looks like. Okay, so that'll be interesting. Yeah.
That analysis that will happen, does that take into account the current crime statistics, or is that simply based off of population?
It's everything. It'll take into account our calls for service, how they've increased over the years. Crimes that we're dealing with, what our detectives are dealing with as far as, you know, property crimes, crimes against persons. They'll take all of that data that we have in our computer aided dispatch into consideration when they develop that plan and have a presentation and you know, I saw National Cities, and National City came up with, I don't quote me on it, but I think it was like 10 additional officers that they needed. So that tells me something's going to shift here, but how do you do that? I mean, you just, you know, 10 officers are not cheap. No, we know that. So how do you incrementally make that happen so that, you know, like you're saying, 3 years, 5 years down the road, when we have those increases, how do we get to that point? Financially as a city, that's a conversation for myself and the city manager and the city council, obviously to have moving forward, but you know, how is it fiscally responsible to do? And then what pieces within our department can we, I don't want to say outsource, but how can we bring in professional civilians to do some of the things that, like our body worn camera sergeant position right now? I think there's ways to look at that. These are internal things that we're looking at as to how best to use the resources that we have.
Yeah.
But the staffing analysis is going to be all inclusive. You can take a look. Oceanside, I think, is online. And National Cities is online also. They brought in two great companies that came in, did the staffing analysis. I know that Oceanside is not completely done yet, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I just think it would be important to get that information out to the community when that does happen, because I can speak for, you know, my background. It's always a very scary thing to hear that there's going to be more police on the ground. So my experience in La Mesa has been great. Actually, during the holiday season, I had a pair of shoes stolen. And in order for me to get my money back, I had to file a formal police report, which was a little bizarre for me, but I wanted my money back. So I went through the process, and you guys had actually sent someone to my home. He wasn't a police officer. I don't know what his formal title was, but
Community service officer.
okay, that was great because it wasn't an emergency, but I did need to get something documented and reported. And when he showed up, you know, he called me. I said, I didn't realize you were going to be coming to my home. He's like, well, I can meet you at your door. It was just such a great experience. You know, I apologize. Like, I'm sure you have so many other things to be doing. He's like, no, you know, we want to hear about all types of crime, you know, don't worry about it. It was just a really reassuring experience. So having that available, I think is, you know, so great. So just thinking long-term, that's something that I appreciated. I'm actually afraid to leave La Mesa because I do feel so safe here. I really am. It's weird. I've never felt this connected to a city before, and I've been in San Diego County for almost 20 years since I graduated high school. So it's a really unique city, and you know, that's kind of why I'm here, is to make sure that, you know, we keep it that way, because I've had a great experience, and from what I've seen from the police department has been exemplary. So
Well, we pride ourselves on customer service, and sometimes we don't get it right.
Yeah.
Anybody. But I think, you know, more so than not, this is an agency, and always has been, at least since I've worked here, that goes above and beyond to actually go to people's houses, take those reports, and we don't want to lose that.
yeah,
I mean, we're looking at right now ways to do some online reporting, things that are simple for insurance purposes and things like that, are just more convenient for the public. But to have somebody come and actually show interest and want to help you solve the crime.
right.
So I think I read about the shoes stolen off the porch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My running shoes, so now I can't go to the gym, so.
Oh, darn.
I know.
New Year's resolution.
I mean,
Right.
that's something with the staffing study too, is that, you know, I want to keep that level of customer service here in the city. And I don't think I would get any arguments from anybody, you know, community members, for the customer service piece of it, right?
Yeah.
It's just, how do you best do that? And our community service officers are wonderful. They really are. When I started here, we had one. And all he did was take traffic accident reports. Now we have 4.
Nice.
So we have one that works in detectives, and we have 3 that work in patrol, and they assist the officers. Because like I said, the calls for service since I started here have never gone down. They've just gone up. It's just, how do we, you know, police officers are for emergent crime. That's what we need them for. When things are happening now, we need them there for safety. We call them cold reports. So reports that have no suspect information. We don't know, there may be prints that we're going to come take. A community service officer can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the win for us. And if, you know, I definitely don't talk bad about my brothers and sisters in this profession, but we are the best in this county, in my opinion, when it comes to customer service.
I agree.
I believe that.
Thank you. That's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that, your experience up. One thing that I wanted to mention, you had talked about active shooter event, and maybe Christian and I are looking at each other like, maybe active shooter preparedness or safety preparedness. And I'm just thinking, especially if it goes to elementary schools, and I'm thinking of Christian's young son, that could be traumatic to think we're having to prepare for this, but it's a reality. So how do we do that? And how do we present it to elementary school kids in a way that isn't going to traumatize? I'm still thinking about crawling under my desk and covering my head because the Russians were going to bomb us, you know, in the 50s and 60s. And that's traumatic. And it sticks with me. It sticks with you your whole life. And kids today, that's unfortunately a reality that's in our world. But how can we bring that maybe calling it safety preparedness, but still we have to deal with the issues. I don't know.
Well, I think those are all things that we're still looking at, and I appreciate that input. I encourage it to keep coming. So as Captain Rungy develops the program and what it's gonna look like, those are all questions we're asking too.
Yeah,
Because, we're not gonna just have a group of kids.
Yeah.
And tell them, we don't want to traumatize them at
right,
all.
yeah,
We want to have the parents,
yeah,
how can we make this? How can we make it work?
Yeah.
And that's why I say, we don't have all the time in the world or the staff, we know that. But can we put it into a video and put it into different learning environments? So that, parents can talk with their kids about it,
yeah.
and use the piece.
And
for-
teachers can talk.
And teachers can talk to their students.
Yeah.
And, we work very closely with the hospital, Grossmont Center, the bigger businesses here and all the schools. So it's just an extra piece.
Yeah.
For somebody to have. They have the run, hide, fight video that's been out there for years. I think FBI put that out. Gosh, I don't know. 12, 13 years ago, probably,
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was a little bit different than.
but it's
people.
still out there.
Yeah.
So that's, for our community, I want them to have something tangible that they can go back on. And it's gonna change. I mean, tactics change sometimes, but the basics of survival,
Yeah.
when that happens, don't change.
Yep, unfortunately, it's the reality we face.
And I know you guys think of the long list of, but being the faith representative, I think about it all the time because everybody's facing me.
Yeah,
I'm the only one facing the door.
yeah,
And so I'm the only one who actually would see somebody come in. And if it is a stranger, I'm fairly distracted, always when, which is horrible because I want to be
yeah.
at the church. Or why are you here? That type of thing. So
Yeah.
I know churches would love to have that access as well. I know that's on your
Yes.
list.
Absolutely.
Christian, they come after you.
So anyway, however, I could be supportive in that, sharing our perspective too,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
and how we can distribute that within faith communities.
So, no public, I mean, I did get a public comment on my text message, but we talked about it already, so,
There is no public
okay,
comment.
great, thank you. Anything else for the chief before we move on? All right, let's go on to item 6.3, independent police auditor update, and that's Rick Rasmussen.
We're finishing up the fourth quarter report, so I expect to have that to Lynn by the end of the month. We've compiled the data for the year on our complaint tracking log. And I just recently finished a preliminary inquiry on a complaint, 2301, I think was the number. It came in, I think, on New Year's Day for an event that happened, I think, on New Year's Eve. But nonetheless, it came in on New Year's Day, so it won't make the fourth quarter report. I was able, by working closely with the police department and IA, Captain Rungy in particular, to get to the bottom of the allegation, which was not supported by the body worn camera footage. So therefore, we won't have to do a full audit on it. We'll be able to proceed because the facts as alleged, I guess the best way to say it, simply weren't captured on any of the body camera that were present that day. So it's not unusual. A good portion of complaints in my career of doing this are similar to this one, where for whatever reason, the citizen believes something happened that didn't actually occur. So, but we went through it in the preliminary inquiry effectively, very efficiently, but there's simply no reason to proceed any further on it. And there's the allegation is disproved by other evidence. So we administratively declined, and you'll see that next quarter on the first quarter report. Other than that, things are rolling through pretty seamlessly. Lepta is up and running. We're still having some growing pains with Lepta, but it's getting better and better, which makes it easier for us to stay on top of complaints so that we can come to you and say, all right, the complaint on its face fits your investigative guidelines, and our preliminary inquiry into that complaint would indicate that this deserves further investigation. Then once IAs conclude theirs, we would be able to audit it fully and come to a good conclusion. So things are rolling. I will get out there before the end of March. I'll coordinate that with Lynn. I'll give you plenty of notice so that all y'all have to do is tell me, we want you to come sooner rather than later. You know, God knows I love 4 feet of snow, but you know, it's possible I could enjoy sticking my toes in the Pacific again. But let me know what y'all want. Either way, I'll be there by the end of March.
Okay. Any questions for Rick? Okay, and did you say, Rick, how many complaints you received for the fourth quarter?
I don't think I did. I don't break them out that way,
Okay,
except for on the quarterly report. Just a second, let me take a look at it real quick. I do have it here at my fingertips.
seems like the normal number is like 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah, I don't believe we got that.
Okay,
Let me look just a second. 1, 2.
oh, nice.
I think we have 11 total for the entire
Oh,
year.
for the whole year, okay, so I'm probably including the historical audits that you did as well, so yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good.
Yep, Chief is right. We had 11 for the year. We got 2 in the fourth quarter. One of which, maybe both of which. Both, there are 2 that are still pending.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll look forward to that report. Any other questions for Rick? And hearing none, we can move on to 6.4. This is an action item. We have the annual report that you received a copy of in your packet, and wanted to get feedback on.
We can share a screen for those folks. Just in case.
Yes, that would be great. So this is the cover letter for the annual report. We gave the overview, which just gives the historical perspective from what we've done since our inception. And then membership, what our CPOB looks like and who we represent in the community. So that's pretty clear. And then it goes on the next page to introduction, and just basically really important point in the introduction is that last sentence: the CPOB has and will continue to maintain a dialogue with the chief of police and the LMPD command staff, the independent police auditor, and the CPOB council to continue this work. So Dale Larson and Caroline Chipetti are key components and in this dialogue. And so I think that's a really important point to emphasize when we give the verbal presentation to City Council. Then we go on to a summary of 2022 accomplishments. These are the items that we've worked on this past year. The survey, we're going to continue to work on gathering information about the informal survey, which is an attitudinal survey about community perceptions of the La Mesa Police Department. And I'll talk a little bit about that more in the next agenda item, but there were a few areas that we could work on, but for the most part, it pretty much mirrored the comments made in the citywide survey. not too much of a difference. The other things we've done, we've participated in an interview for candidates, and we hope that we can continue to do that. That was always rewarding to be a part of that process. The third item is continuing education for our members. We always need to learn more about what's going on and keep in line with the law, such as Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order. We've disseminated an internship application. We're still trying to find that. Youth ages 16 to 22. So if anybody knows of anyone in the community who lives in La Mesa and would be interested, I've sent several applications throughout the past year to Helix, and am still hoping somebody steps forward to participate as an intern. We've really worked hard to make sure the complaint process is available to people. The chief has mentioned it numerous times at his community gatherings, and we're getting word out. That was one thing that the survey showed we needed to get the word out better about, and I think we're doing a better job with that. Collaborating with the IPA, and certainly we're working in that direction for the quarterly reports. That's working nicely. Outreach efforts by the chief, continuing research on crime prevention strategies, and then formation of our subcommittees. So once we hear from city council about the new people who, or the people who will be on the CPOB for this year or this term, then we can start allocating who will be on the different subcommittees. So that's one thing that we need to identify. And then we identified our work plans. So we continue to engage in the hiring process, recommend officer training procedures and policies, which we're working on right now with the mediation, thank you, policy. And the RIPA data will be coming in as well, which we want to, I attended a seminar, which was great, about a person who really works hard with police departments to look at the data and make determination about next steps based on the data that has come forward to them. So that's really a key component. I want to get her book and read up on, I forget her name, but probably a name that's familiar to you. She's spoken and kind of addressed police departments across the nation. So she's got some good ideas. And then collaborate with the IPA to review audits, which we've been doing all along, ongoing trainings and updates, right? Everybody participate in a ride along. I think almost everybody here has other hands-on training as it becomes available. Mediation program, as we spoke about earlier. Engage with members of the media. And I think once we get our communication person on board with the city, that will help in that regard, because we really want to do a little bit more outreach in that area, but we hate to do it and, you know, do something that is inappropriate. We want to make sure we have an expert on board that can guide us in that direction. Employee wellness is always an area of interest for us. And so recommending any ideas for to improve in that area. Implicit bias training. These were the two recommendations we made after the last audit review to review implicit bias training and child development training. So that's something we can work on. And I think that's ongoing within the department anyway. So it is, yes. So pretty much that is the report that's going to go to city council. This will be connected to our work plan, which we saw last week and last meeting and approved. If there's any questions, comments, this will be presented at the February 14th city council meeting. So if we approve this today, that's where it is headed. Any comments, questions, additions, deletions?
Just one comment or question. Might we
use any other terminology rather than child development training. I'm just not sure without the context of where that came from, if that will be clear to council members what we are really looking for there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else could be used instead of child development. Because in education circles, that's pretty clear. Yeah.
We use it with juvenile interactions. I know what
Yeah,
you're talking about, though. Trying to learn
the developmental, yeah, the
development
like,
of the
Right.
child, right,
yeah, the
right.
developmental, develop
Would-
developmental aspects of child's brain.
With human, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking that council members may wonder, well, why are we delving into that without more explanation? So if there is another term that might be clearer of to what we're intending with that.
Maybe, your idea about human development might just cover all the bases. Does that sound? I mean, it doesn't get to the crux of what we want is for officers to have a better sense of, a 16-year-old is should not be treated the same as a 40-year-old because
Right.
their brain is not fully developed at that point and should not be treated in the same manner.
It could somehow behavior be used in that?
Yeah.
Because so child development and behavior, I don't know if that defines it more or makes it more muddy.
Yeah.
Or maybe just further explaining what we expect maybe the training to include, child development training that includes X, Y, and Z.
Duration.
Yeah, maybe get more specific, and why is it even in there? Okay,
If you want do you want to send me an edit or
Yeah.
if you want to, we can work on it.
yeah, we can work on an edit. We'll try to incorporate everything people have offered, suggested today. And I'll try to keep it within the vein of what, with maintaining the same meaning, but being a little more clear about what we're trying to say. Andy has his hand raised. Maybe, I don't know if can we do public comments at this point?
Yes.
He might have.
Andy, you could go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. Andy, you can speak on your comment.
Aha, there it is. I just had a quick point on item 8. Engage with members of the media to showcase various new valuable programs and assist and recommend in identifying developing programs for greater community outreach to schools, nonprofits, etc. Maybe this is intended here, but I'm wondering if it could be more clear that or if this could be an intention or a goal to have the board reach out to other community groups to engage them, not just about LMPD programs, but about the oversight board itself and what's going on there.
So you
all.
mean like asking community members for input?
Yeah, so that more people are aware of what the oversight board does, like if the oversight board members would kind of do presentations with various community groups or outreach of some kind to
Yeah.
kind of, let them know that it exists and it's available and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a great idea because the chief and I have been doing that. We presented at community service organizations, and it does help because people are not really sure what the Community Police Oversight Board does. And when we go through items that we've accomplished and how we're working together, I think it helps everybody to get a better understanding. So that's a great thing to add to this. And maybe we can either create a separate item or include it somewhere in community outreach because it's a part of community outreach, but
And we could take a stab at it and see what's best.
yeah, because you're right. it's-
Either add to that bullet or a new bullet,
Yeah,
but we can definitely incorporate that in there.
yeah, Because I don't see, you're right, it needs to be there somewhere. So community outreach needs to be probably a separate bullet.
Yeah.
So thank you, Andy, for bringing that up.
Thanks.
Okay, so those two items, 8, possibly making that into an additional item with board outreach to community groups, and then 10, try to reword child development so that it becomes more understandable to city council members.
I found age related. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that might even be a good,
Did you look up synonyms?
I
yeah,
looked up synonyms for child development.
Two
yeah,
nerds.
yeah, age related sounds pretty good too.
So we'll work together on that. We
Okay.
can, yeah, we can make those edits.
Okay, and if everybody's comfortable with us trying to maintain the spirit of the letter, not changing anything dramatically, but being, clarifying those two items a little bit more clearly. If everybody's fine with it, we could approve the letter with minor changes. And be able to move it forward to city council in the next couple of weeks.
If I would, sorry,
Oh,
not
no,
trying to
that's
get too granular on things, but
No.
in that same number 8.
Yeah.
It says churches, and sometimes that indicates Christian religion oftentimes, and maybe does not include synagogues or others, and maybe so nonprofits, faith communities or
Faith
something along those
Okay.
lines. So
I
that
like
it's.
that. Thank
a little
you.
more broad. Sorry, didn't catch it. I read through this earlier, but I didn't catch it until he just pointed that out.
Yeah.
So church to faith communities?
Faith communities, yeah, I think that's a broader inclusion
Not
of,
really. That's much better
although
choice.
there are not as many in La Mesa, it would be great to have more diversity.
Yeah. Because you're the.
That's not something you guys are in charge of.
Because you're not a church leader, you're a faith-based rep on this, so it's
Yeah.
good to keep that in mind, that we're talking about all denominations or even,
Yeah.
even if you choose to be atheist, it's, we want to outreach to all communities. Great. Any other points? These are all really good additions to this. All right. Hearing none, do we have any motion to approve this letter with the minor changes that we discussed?
So moved.
Bob Duff. Need a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Mike McWilliams, second. And Stacy, when you're ready.
Board Member McWilliams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Duff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Dement, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Blackman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair Castanos, how do you vote?
Yes,
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
thank you. Okay, so we have got the next item on the agenda is the review of the draft Community Police Oversight Board survey. And this is not necessarily a draft because we did approve this survey exactly as it is a year or so ago. But this is a draft of the online version, which the wording hasn't changed except maybe to add a year to clarify one of the questions that about May 30, we had just said following the May 30th event and the PhD student at San Diego State mentioned, yeah, we should say May 30th, 2020 incident. So it's a little bit clearer there. But let me just give you some background on this. Dylan Squaw, who's a PhD student at San Diego State, has been working with me through Stuart Aiken is the professor at San Diego State, and he recommended Dylan work with us to provide social media access to our survey instead of just the paper survey. And we've handed some out, the paper version, but we need to get input from more people. And whether it's youth or, various members of our community, we want to put it out on social media. The concern, of course, is making sure we get people from La Mesa. So they would have to answer that question about the fact that they live in La Mesa or not. there's always the fear that people will take this survey and be thinking of some other police department because, or even highway patrol, there's just always that, confusion about which agency is actually involved in various incidents. So the question that Dylan had asked us is, first of all, what social media should we use? And I'm thinking, cover definitely Facebook next door and yes, Instagram, but I mean, I have to ask them if there's a way to keep it in a geographic, it might not be, huh? I don't know enough.
It's tough. Even next door has
Next week.
It's
bigger than
broad.
La Mesa.
Yeah, it's, even if I just want information from my own neighborhood, I'm all over San Diego, so it's.
But Janet, isn't one of the questions whether or not you're a La Mesa resident? So
Yes,
say
it
you're
asks,
not,
it asks two questions to really
Yeah.
get to the question. One is what's your zip code, which could still be outside of the city of La Mesa in some areas, but also do you live in the city limits of La Mesa? So
Right.
those are the two
those are the
questions
two.
that, and I suppose if they don't answer either one of those, then we throw it out. If they answer one, we'll have a fairly good idea, if they say 91941. Technically, or two, yeah. They would not always be in the city of La Mesa, but at least is fairly close. So,
I kind of think we want to be a little bit liberal about that because I seem to remember discussion saying, what if you live in National City and you just love the Grossmont Mall and that's where you shop?
yeah,
While you're traveling here is when you have your
yeah,
activity, right?
interactions or
So you don't have to be. a
or you
licensed
work
resident.
here, maybe
Yeah.
you work.
You can
in La
work
Mesa,
here and
Yeah,
live in
Yeah.
Santee. So,
Could that be added in there? If your employment is in here, because that's it, you spend most of your time here.
yeah, you would. Because even the Helix students, a lot of them live in San Diego, Lemon Grove. They spend most of their day here in La Mesa, so it's good to get their input, but yeah, so social media, and I could ask Stuart about, is there any way to try to limit the area that's covered? And to ask question about, work, like do you work or go to work or school?
Where's the zip code of your place of employment?
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a good one. So I'll ask him about that.
And maybe it's, do you live within La Mesa? And then if not,
Do you
how
work?
are you associated with?
Yes,
the
yeah.
work? I go to school,
Yeah.
work, so in the.
Yes, that's a good idea.
That might be helpful. I don't know how comfortable people are. People get concerned about sharing too much information. Now they know where I work and I live and, so. I
Well,
limit
and
people from-
this is not going to be submitted. I mean, it's not something they're going to submit into Facebook. It's going to go into a database. They're just going to access the survey. And then their answers are anonymous. They go into a database. San Diego State will take, the data and put it in a form that we can understand. So, yeah, I mean, that would allow them to be anonymous and not have to feel like they can't answer honestly, because they've got to be able to do that. So, it's a, what's that, like Survey Monkey type thing. So where it's anonymous, you don't put your name in, but you answer these questions and then you're done. And the other question he has was length of time to run the survey. And I'm thinking about 3 months, because last year we kind of got through the youth part, gathering the survey from the high school. By about April, we were pretty much done with collecting this data. Does that sound about right to keep it? I mean, it's not a long time, but it's long enough. Any thoughts on length of time?
That's a good amount.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, and then the last thing he asked is if we put additional comments at the end. instead of right now, the way it sits is kind of in the middle, before we get to demographic questions. And he thought it might be better to put it at the end, like, are you interested in making any comments? Please use this space.
Yeah,
So,
The current version online has it at the end.
okay,
Yeah,
good.
so he.
Oh, okay, he
he's
did
made
change
that
it,
change.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got Google Forms up.
Okay,
Here and how that
perfect.
survey would look. So
Okay, oh, good. This is the actual, perfect. So, yeah, he already made that change. Yeah, anything, I think all of you may have taken this. If you haven't taken it this year, you can take it again. We'd like to get input from everyone, including CPOB members who are most in the know. And once it comes out on social media, then we could also forward it as a link to our friends and people, neighbors that we know who live in La Mesa. So that could be another way of getting the word out.
Board Member McWilliams has his hand raised.
Oh, Mike, yes.
Yeah, regarding the issue of residency, maybe we wouldn't have to be so concerned about that if we asked them to identify as La Mesa resident or not, but didn't necessarily rule out the input. I guess if for statistical purposes, I'm sure we would like to maintain consistency with La Mesa residents, but I think it might not be a bad idea to count any surveys submitted by non-residents. And that might be an interesting perspective too on how LMPD is viewed both within and without the city.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because it's all about, perception and attitudes. However, again, it's difficult because of the fact that all law enforcement agencies kind of run together in many people's minds. And so,
Not true.
yeah, so when they see something happening and it's the CHP, they still think, oh, it's in La Mesa, it's the La Mesa Police Department. Well, no, it's CHP. So that's always confusing, but I guess that's something we just have to deal with.
Andy Tremlett has his hand raised.
Andy, yes.
You can go ahead and speak, Andy.
Cool, thanks. A few thoughts. One, I do think it would be interesting to include people from outside La Mesa as long as you can identify who they are. Because if I remember correctly, somewhere in the neighborhood of half of the people that La Mesa PD interacts with are not from La Mesa. I think a question or two questions that might be helpful to add are, have you ever had any direct experience with La Mesa PD or something along the line? Have you ever engaged with La Mesa PD directly? Because as much as I'm on these calls, I've never actually called the La Mesa PD. So I don't have any experience on either side of the law enforcement front with La Mesa PD. And I think it would be really interesting to compare people who don't have any experience but have a general opinion with people who have experience and what their opinion would be. And then finally on the promotion front, if you can get a few $100 out of the city to do marketing, like you can do direct Facebook ads targeted at people who live in La Mesa. You can also do the same thing on all the other social media sites, as well as Pandora radio ads if you're interested in, and really just focus on people in La Mesa to get some more people, and it's very inexpensive.
Wow, that's really good information. Yeah, you had mentioned that before, and we were going to go through the communications director, but then she moved on. So we, yeah, that's something that we really need to look into for sure. So, and we might not be able to do it this time because the budget's already, but
we'll have to look into it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll look
That's
into it.
something we'll ask about, because I think, all in all, working with San Diego State, if this particular PhD student decides to work on this as part of his dissertation research, that would be helpful because he could compare last year to this year. We'd like to do a third year as well, so we can see, like, are we making progress? Are we heading in the right direction? And that's kind of the whole purpose of doing these surveys. It helps us to know where we need to focus, or if there's something that we're not getting information out about, that's what we need to work on. So yeah, great ideas. Thank you for that, Andy. Appreciate it. And I think, your ideas about, do you live, work, go to school, shop in La Mesa? Maybe give them that option to check off, and then maybe there's something else that they do in La Mesa. It'd be good to know if they're here other than, if they live here or if they're here visiting, so helpful bit of information. Other ideas? All right, I will share this with Dylan and get some input from him. I think what our plan is to get this on as soon as possible onto social media, since it is the survey we've already approved. The only difference would be, do you live, work, go to school, shop? And even Pastor Christian's idea, do you have direct or was that Pastor Christian? Do you have direct, or Mike? Okay, do you have direct, direct experience with La Mesa PD? Okay. Well, we can add, those should be just minor little additional questions that don't really change things too much. So with that, and there's no other comments, do we have an approval to, a motion to move this into, let's see, was it, social media realm of survey? So it's like Survey Monkey, social media realm of collecting data with this survey, for this survey. Anybody want to make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Michaela makes the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Bob Duff seconds. And we will,
Board Member McWilliams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Duff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Dement, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Blackman, how do you vote?
yes,
Chair Castanos, how do you vote?
yes,
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, committee reports. I don't know, Leroy, are you interested in giving us any updates on the mediation policy?
Just that we're planning another meeting to input the IPA's edits and make sure it's okay with the POA. So we're gonna have another meeting, Lynn's putting that meeting together.
So the Police Officer Association is interested in meeting with your committee.
They're actually part of our thing.
They're part of the committee.
Yeah,
That's
they're
really
part of
good. Okay, that's great.
There's a possibility we can finalize it. At
Okay.
least have both parties agree on it. The edits were looked at by Mr. Rasmussen and Bruce Ambrose at the IPA, and the edits, in my opinion, weren't substantial.
Yeah,
They
they're
didn't
pretty
change
minor.
any of the POA's requested edits. My understanding is the CPOB subcommittee is favorable to those edits too, so we're in pretty good shape.
So we should be able to bring it here at our next meeting.
I think so.
Okay, for a vote, and then, and then do policies have to go through city council? So then it would,
No, not through city council.
They
Oh.
go to the chief.
go to the chief. Okay, and then but you're already giving input as we move through it, or no?
Yeah, I don't see
Okay,
any issues.
so you would be the final say.
Yeah.
Here's our recommendation. Yeah, okay, that sounds.
I like it when everybody agrees.
Yeah, yeah, helps a lot, definitely.
So Chief, just that I'm clear, because I'd like to make sure we're heading the right way. We'll get that input from the POA, from our members, and then it goes to you next, and then back to this group.
It sounds like there's already an existing policy that we can just use,
Mhm.
right? And just make it
Fit,
La Mesa.
yeah.
That's not gonna be hard at all.
Yeah, that's what's been
Okay.
done.
So we're closing in on it. Should be pretty.
So our role is to make recommendations to you. So that policy would come to us and we would say, oh, yeah, we like it, or we want to make these changes, and we give it to you and you say, yay or nay.
Yeah, I
or
think this
make
one's a
changes.
little odd because it's actually in your ordinance. This is what you're to do.
Yeah,
You're charged to do, but it'll come to me. We'll build a policy, which sounds like it's already done. And then I'll put my name on it. And then it can come back to you. So yep, that's exactly what we're looking at and we publish it. We're done.
Okay, perfect, yeah. Sounds like a good plan.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? I think we haven't really met this past few months, so on smaller committee size. Staff and board member announcements. Any staff announcements?
I have none.
But you are serving as.
Well, maybe I do have one.
Yeah.
It's the obvious one. Yeah, so as everyone knows, Carlo Tomaino has moved on. He accepted a position as the city manager of the city of Signal Hill. It's a small city, it's actually an island city within the city of Long Beach. So Carlo was a big loss, but in the meantime, the positions being recruited for, it's a priority to be filled. I'll be fulfilling this role for the CPOB until that happens, and then that new person, whoever it is, will come on board and we will both continue. And my involvement with the CPOB will not change with whoever assumes that role. I will still be involved. It'll still be a 2 staff member assignment.
Great. Well, we're lucky to have you be so nicely
you.
step into
Thank
this.
you. Yeah,
this
it's a
role.
pleasure.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Yes, it's great to have you here and we always enjoy working with you.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to reiterate what Leroy mentioned earlier. He and I both attended the Martin Luther King breakfast and listened to the keynote speaker, Steve Phillips, who talked about his book. He's a best-selling author, both on New York Times and Washington Post bestseller list. And he wrote this book, How We Win the Civil War. And the premise is that we really haven't gotten past the Civil War issues. We haven't really fully moved on from that way back 150 plus years ago. And that what's nice is he identifies where we are in our growth. And at times it's pretty depressing, especially, what's happened recently. And then what can we do to move on, from here? And I've just started. I know Leroy's further into the book, but I'm really impressed with a lot of the ideas that he's offered. So just wanted to throw it out there that we were happy to be a part of Martin Luther King Jr. event in the city of San Diego. And next year, we're going to make sure our police department is there because it was pretty fabulous. And we'll make sure they hear about it early. Any other comments?
I'll just lift up an opportunity since we're always invited to do things with you all. Our church is providing something for the community. It's called the Cost of Poverty Experience. It's going to be on March 4th. And it's actually a simulation experience of some of the things that people who are in poverty run into. And it gives a greater and so it's a simulation. And you get to experience some of the challenges, the hurdles, the red tape that get in the way and create the challenges, frustrations of trying to move from that place of poverty into a place of self-sustaining. And it just helps us get a better understanding of what that looks like and how we can help one another a little bit more. And the ultimate goal is it's a year-long, this is just one day, but it's a kickoff for our church's year-long expression or interest in building better relationships with people who are in poverty and how we can be a community that receives their gifts and talents regardless of socioeconomic status or any hurdles that they might have. So, or we might have. I hate to say they, because there are people within our congregation that are experiencing it. So it's a simulation. As a matter of fact, some of the people that we feed on the last Saturday of the month, which tend to be, we call them our neighbors in need, but lots of them are unhoused, are actually going to be the ones who help lead and actually are the ones who put up some of the barriers. So the tables kind of get turned a little bit because they're they're actually going to be sharing some of their experiences in a very real way. So that's March 4th, and I will send something so that if you're interested, you can notice.
Is it evening or morning?
It's on a Saturday and it's at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's a 2-hour experience. So it's 9 to 11 at the church. At La Mesa First.
Great, thank you. And then you've also got your point in time count.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we're hosting that's somebody else is putting that on. We're just being the place where people can gather. The point in time count, which is at 4 a.m. next Thursday. People will gather and actually go out into the community. They're given a map portion that they go on every single street. And it's a literal counting of those who are homeless, whether in the streets or in a car, and engage with those folks and gather data. And it really helps with resources that can come back to our community to help provide and respond to homelessness. So that's next Thursday from 4 to 8 a.m. And Bonnie Bronoff is leading that up. And there's a way to volunteer for that online. So it's called the Point in Time Count. And you can do it here in La Mesa or in other regions as well. It actually happens throughout San Diego County all on that same day. So there will be a lot of people out there counting.
Yeah,
We'll be doing some social media on
good.
down our page for that.
great. Okay, lots going on. Thank you, Chris. Anything else to report? All right, thank you all. And we want to really thank, we don't have Caitlin Tiffany here tonight because she's on La Mesa Spring Valley Board. Patricia Dillard, of course, is La Mesa City Council. We miss them. We thank them. Michael McWilliams, thank you and for all your work. And Larry Darby, thanks to him for all his work. And Ana Fuentes, thanks for all her work. And then we'll find out at next city council meeting who is going to continue or be serving on this board. Many of you are continuing, but there's a few of us that have put in our application. So we'll see what happens. The city council will decide February 14th. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 15th at 4 o'clock. So we will see everybody at that. Thank you all. Meeting adjourned 5:28.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. To have you.
I was gonna say.